are listening or watching Real Conversations with Jacob Young. Real Conversations is sponsored by Boys Town, saving children, healing families for over 100 years. Please go to boystown.org to see how you can support the girls and boys of Boys Town. Now, Real Conversations is also sponsored by Next Generation Storytellers, paving the way for young filmmakers, one movie at a time. Now, my guest this week is a very familiar face to CBS daytime fans. He was one of the longest-serving cast members in the history of TV's The Young and the Restless. He's been nominated for multiple Soap Opera Digest Awards and has received 5 Emmy nominations for his work on The Young and the Restless. Now, he's won 4 Soap Opera Digest Awards, and he won the Emmy. For 6 years, he served as the host of the iconic Tournament of Roses parade. He's been on the game show host on the syndicated version of The Price is Right, and has appeared in the live stage show adaptation, The Price is Right Live in Las Vegas. You know him as Genoa City's Paul Williams, but today I'm saying, come on down to Emmy Award winner actor Doug Davidson. You know what time it is. It's time to keep it real with Real Conversations with Jacob Young. Doug.
Hey, Jacob.
It's good to see you.
Good to see you too. Awesome.
Yeah, man. Well, thank you so much for joining me.
Oh, my pleasure. How did you get hooked up with Boys Town?
Oh, that's a great question. A few years ago, well, it was more than a few years, about 7 years ago, I ended up doing a social media campaign and not realizing it was the same Boys Town as like the movie Boys Town.
Uh-huh.
And it was a really wonderful thing where it was about a praise jar for your kids. And because I've got kids, and instead of focusing on the negatives that they do, you praise them for the good things. So I did this social media campaign, and not long after that, I was watching Boys Town, the movie, and I went, like a light went off. I said, that can't be the same Boys Town that I just did that job for. So I reached out to the contact, and they go, yeah, we're one and the same. And after that, I've been on a mission to help spread the good word of what they do there.
That's awesome. All my young adult life, I worked for the YMCA in a camping program and summer day camp, all that kind of thing. And once I got involved in The Young and the Restless, that kind of took a back seat because, as you know, there's very little time for extracurricular activities. And then once I had a family, it was like,
Yeah. It definitely consumes a lot of your life being on a daytime serial, Monday through Friday.
Yeah. Not to mention the homework.
Yeah, exactly. All that time you have to spend at home, also away from your kids, trying to learn your lines.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Well, listen, we recently lost the legendary Bob Barker.
Yeah.
And you were one of the hosts of the incredible, successful Price is Right Live on Stage franchise. Did you ever get to meet Bob? And what did you learn from watching?
He was right across the hall from The Young and the Restless. So oftentimes he wasn't a big, I guess there was some sort of internal struggle when they put on a nighttime version, and it was done by Paramount. So nothing I did, but I had to go to him personally and say, look, no threat. It's I got hired. It's a gig, and that was the only friction that I had. And the rest of the time, he was terrific. In all the family feuds we did, and The Young and the Restless versus The Price is Right. He was delightful.
Yeah. So
he was delightful. The whole.
That's wonderful. So, but he felt there was a bit of a threat with you coming.
Well, I guess because there was a segment called "The Price Was Right," and it talked about you had to guess the price of something that was like 30 or 40 years old, like a Plymouth or a Dodge and in the promotion, we said, it's not your father's Price is Right. And he took, or someone near him took offense to it. But I wrote an apology and talked to him. And after that, it was all good.
Yeah, I'm sure it was probably his manager or his agent going, wait a minute.
Yeah, I doubt he saw it.
Exactly. Uh, well, sadly, soap operas are almost extinct on daytime television. What lessons did working in front of the camera almost every single day for you for so many years on Y&R teach you as an actor that most of today's generation will never have the opportunity to learn?
Well, there's so much discipline involved in a daytime series. And like you said, it's Monday through Friday, and Sunday night can very possibly be spent learning, 20 to 40 pages of dialogue. And I think in the onset when I started in 1978 that it was frowned upon as an ugly stepchild to the entertainment business. But truly, it was the infantry, if you were to use that analogy, of the entertainment business, because in those days, all the revenue from the daytime shows would go to finance the nighttime shows, and I think actors, serious actors, didn't want to go into daytime, and through my work during all those years, that whole thing completely changed. When I started, I thought I'd be there 3 years, 4 years, and then move on to something else. And because of the environment, excuse me, with the Bell family, Bill Bell, Lee Bell, running not only the writing part of it, but the producing part of it, eventually, it became a real home. And Bill keyed into certain players, and he wouldn't let them go. And Jeannie Cooper was one, Eric Braeden, Melody Thomas, and me. And it was a great run for so long. And he was, we had our disagreements, but there was a mutual respect the entire 40 years I worked for him.
Yeah, well, you've had such a career, and of course there's going to be disagreements. I mean, creatively, we're on soaps shooting from the hip a lot of the times. It's pumping out episode after episode, script after script, and maybe getting 1, 2, 3 takes tops on these things. So
Yeah,
there's a lot of creative minds at work, and it just typically, from every film set and TV show that I've ever done.
All that changed too, because in the beginning they had more money than they knew what to do with. So we had these elaborate sets in the 80s, and we easily did 6 takes if it was necessary. And now they'll tape rehearsal, and if nobody goofs, well, we'll take it. So
Yeah,
it's totally changed. And the corporate influence really, and it's not only in daytime, but it's in streaming and movies. And I think if you go online and Google this, you'll get people like George Lucas and real filmmakers saying that the whole industry changed when it became part of Wall Street, and the companies that own the studios are not movie companies. I mean, there's no Louis B. Mayer or people that are really into the entertainment business.
Yeah,
it's all corporate, and they're pushing for their bonuses, and that is the reality of what's happening.
Yeah,
what has happened actually.
Yeah, it has happened, and it's a sad place. And speaking of streaming platforms, obviously there's been a lot going on, of course, with the strike and all of that, plus the AI thing they're talking about, among a multitude of other things. Any thoughts on what's happening with like streaming and actors being paid, or any thoughts on the strike?
Well, I guess the thoughts I have, I would be rather critical of our own union, because when I was informed at 63 that I was no longer going to be on the be no longer a contract player. The union decided they couldn't afford the senior healthcare program, and I was supposed to be vested twice actually, because you only have to work 20 years and meet your qualifications to become vested for life. So they cut out the entire senior program, and Ed Asner was suing them. And unfortunately, he was once president of the Screen Actors Guild, and he said that he stopped suing the union once they stopped screwing with the actors. So I have a really mixed feeling about the loyalty of our own union, which I have seen sided with the corporations. Union people telling me, well, you've had a really good run. So the support that I expected from my own union did not exist.
Yeah. And that's I've got to say there's, that's one of my fears too. I was in daytime for 28 years.
You're vested.
Yeah. Vested.
Or were. The minute you stop, and they raised the minimum to, and they cut out residuals. You can't count residuals to it. So really, it's a stranglehold on the senior population. It's not fair.
No, it's not fair. And another, one of my biggest concerns too is with the strike that's going on. I feel like the 99.9% actors that are out there going, well, I'm not making my money for my health care. And then we have people that are in the front lines that are, sold shows for $100 million or $65 million. And people that have made their money in the industry, like Bryan Cranston. I see him on the picket lines. I see a lot of these people out there, and I know they're fighting the good fight, but all I feel like it's doing is it's making it that much harder for these actors to even get their health care, because now we've stymied it. COVID screwed that up, and now we're taking all this big break right now. I don't know how it's going to help them.
I don't either. It won't. And I think that I understand the writers, because that is a real threat. And I have some very close friends that are successful writers, and suddenly they stop taking quotes, and they don't want to pay for what they're getting. And let's face it, it starts on the page. And if you can't support the writers and what they do, that's a pity. And to piggyback on the writers' strike, to me, is it just shows how weak our union is. And they separate daytime from nighttime, so it's really not an entire actor strike. Daytime people are still working. So that's not impacting their daytime lineup at all. So I don't know. They staggered the contract so you couldn't double up on them, and the idea of it's great. It just hasn't worked out to support the membership.
Yeah,
and I remember there are
so
many actors in the union that aren't working. So, and it's the first time they're in the spotlight when they get to hold a picket sign.
Right.
But really, go ahead.
I felt like, I'm seeing all these like posts on social media, and I feel like they're actually using it as a social media to get their numbers up versus standing there to actually doing their due diligence. They're like, yeah, I'm on the picket line. Look at me. I'm going to put this on my Instagram.
We had actors. There was a discrepancy in our residual pay. And we had actors that went and discussed it, complained with the union, and they came through with a settlement. We all got big checks, and this was like, I don't know, 8 years ago. And then one of the actors that complained was removed from our show. temporarily, but still it was a message. And then, we haven't seen residuals like that since. There was no penalty for holding on to the money for a number of years. So we got what they fought for, but it didn't continue. And they didn't, you don't pay your taxes. You're going to pay a percentage of interest on the money that you haven't paid when you finally give a check. So I don't know. It's probably like this in a lot of places, but
I would imagine. I remember, years ago, when Chris Pine's dad was running AFTRA and was working on trying to get the unions to combine, and it was it was long overdue, right? And then we finally joined. We bailed them out, basically, SAG, which most people don't realize that they were going bankrupt and they needed the money. They say it's one union, but during COVID, I was trying to call them about several different things, and they're like, "Oh, no. Yeah." Well, they're like, "Oh, no, you're calling the wrong office. This is SAG. You're AFTRA." I'm like, I thought it was one union.
Yeah. Well, the retirement part is separate because, and I think that's the one thing they did do correctly, is that we've all paid in to AFTRA as daytime performers, and SAG was running belly up.
Yeah.
So, to separate that, I think was one of the key checkpoints that enabled AFTRA voters to vote for a merger without worrying about losing their retirement.
Yeah. What's your feeling about the AI portion?
Well, I read an article today where someone is nominated for a Grammy with a song that was written by AI. I don't know. I think it's really hard to wrap my brain around, because I can't imagine a machine coming up with, but it has so much input that some of the things that I have seen with, write me a 6-page report on this or that, and it's pretty good.
Yeah, it's pretty legit.
So I don't know. I wonder if it is possible to go write me an action film starring Arnold Schwarzenegger and see what it comes up with, and then no writer fee, no residuals, no. I could see that happening in the future.
Yeah, and I see another side of it too, where not only for the writing portion. Now, I'm probably going to get crucified for saying this, but as a producer and have also been in front of the camera for so many years, with the actors now holding out, and I mean, I've seen some of these AI animations of actors, you've seen Arnold Schwarzenegger's face on another actor and doing another scene. Okay, so that's possible, right?
Yeah.
And if I was a studio head and I'm going, wait a minute, the generation, like my kids' generation, they don't care so much about names. I mean, they'll watch an animation, they'll watch anything that entertains them. I would be like, so I don't have to deal with a Meryl Streep's manager anymore. I don't have to deal with the agents anymore. I don't have to get 3 trailers for them anymore. You know, suddenly all that cost expense and the headache goes away. And now, they can create a Kate Winslet, Meryl Streep hybrid that suddenly is acting.
And your kids are used to watching it on their phone.
Yeah. So it's a tough call, but I just feel like rich fighting the rich never works out. And I feel like if they press the studios too hard, there could be some repercussions.
Oh, I think definitely. I think they have a stranglehold on it. I've seen it firsthand.
Yeah.
It's, my way or the highway. And, that's, it was personally, I had a couple tough years because between 63 and 65, I couldn't take retirement or I couldn't get Social Security. So, I had to juggle and mess around and, looking for health care at that age is not the easiest thing to do. And
sure.
the help that you get from The union was suspect. So it was a scrambling period of my life.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
I can completely relate. I went ahead and, since I've been off daytime, I've been working. I work on different film projects and whatnot. But to get healthcare through my own union, it was like they were making it ridiculously tough to get. So I just went and shopped for different premiums and went a different direction.
But it still costs you more than it would have in the days prior.
Sure.
And they've changed it because I don't know, they're not making enough money, but to cut out, the first 20 years, I didn't use it at all, and I was paying in for the idea that when I did need it, when I was older, that it would be taken care of. So I mean, that's a big carpet to rip out from under your feet.
Yeah, it is. I mean I think
I could add it up and go, wow, that in the bank would cover more than what I need now.
Yeah. Yeah. It's crooked. It feels crooked a little bit to me, what they're doing. Now, Doug, you recently left Young and the Restless after an extraordinary career. What made you make that choice, or what happened?
Well, we had a producer that came in, and I think he was just a tool of upper management from not only CBS but Sony, and they were looking at numbers. So they decided to take me off contract, as I had mentioned, at 63. And they said, well, this is a direct quote. We could use you on a recurring basis, or I could hire some plank. I'd rather hire somebody the audience knows, and we don't have to let anyone know about this. And I was caught completely off guard. I mean, after it was 4 months before my 40th anniversary. So not that it doesn't happen to a lot of people in other industries, because it does. But I was shocked, and then they stopped using me. The prior year, I was like, I don't know, 75 shows under my guarantee. And I was counting on my vacation pay to cover the new news bills and things like that, and they credited my vacation pay against my guarantee, so that zeroed out. So essentially, on January 1st, I had no job and no income, and I was told like the beginning of December.
Wow.
So from there, they were using me very sparingly. And about 8 months later, in August of that year, I saw a new character in my office behind my desk. And people wrote me on social media saying, are you still on the show? And I said, it seems like I'm not. And the firestorm went up. They wanted to talk to me, and we didn't fire you. We're not, we didn't. I said, well, stop calling. I'm not working, and somebody's in my set. So it was pretty bumpy from along. And then the following Christmas, he was fired. And I started to work a little bit, and I had personal things that happened, like early calls, first up and last up, and which usually, if you're first up, they'll put you first up on the second stage, so you don't have to sit around between all the other scenes of the day. And I had a scene with Eric Braeden, and they had us come in at 7:00, and for me that's a 4:00 morning, because I'm 2 hours out of LA. and I knew that we weren't going to go on before 2:30, and they made me jump through every hoop to get a later call at 9 o'clock. And I arrive at the studio at 9 o'clock, and Eric's not there. And so he obviously knew what was going to happen. And they made it much easier for him to come in later at noon. So every time I had issues like that, they made it very difficult. So I really got the impression that they didn't want me there, and it was too much stress and emotional baggage for me to face all these. There were so many people there with larger egos than their contribution. So, changing a line was an act of Congress, and it just became more difficult than it was worth, personally, emotionally. And so I stopped. I think it'll be 3 years ago in October. And, it's a revolving door at the quasi top of the show. And so I always held on to the fact that, well, maybe one day. And nothing, the environment at CBS changed. They've got a wonderful woman there that's running the daytime portion of the show. Really nice. Her heart's in it. And I totally respect her. And then our head writer is committed to the show too. But nothing changed from Sony.
I see.
So I chose that, I had a good run. I've got some incredible memories on the show, and it was certainly a big decision on my part. And finally, they said, well, you still have stuff in your dressing room. So I went to clean out my dressing room, I think the end of July or the beginning of July, somewhere in there. And it was kind of eye-opening. CBS has sold all their real estate, BlackRock in New York, Radford in the Valley, and CBS Television City. So it's owned by a different entity, and they're renting. And it used to be the Tiffany Network. It was the most incredible. Well, you've worked there, so it was the nicest dressing rooms, the best facility in the industry, really, for television. And it isn't. It needs paint, needs cleaning. The commissary is closed.
Still closed.
Price is Right is moved. Yeah. I mean, you can get barbecue or something for breakfast, but it's not, it's not like it used to be.
Yeah.
And Price is Right is now in Glendale. I think it's Glendale. And I cleaned out my dressing room. It looked like a dorm room at the end of spring break. It was just ravaged. So it was really sad, very emotional, and but it was easier to close the door after seeing the reality of what it is today than it would have been 6 years ago.
Yeah. I know firsthand how that feels. I mean, you have a lot more years at CBS, but of course, working on Bold and the Beautiful for off and on for as many years as I did, and bouncing around, I too was presented with the, working as a, just part-time coming in. And I just told him, I said, if you're going to offer me that, I'm not sticking around. And I get it. But I also would spend days on days and weeks on weeks worrying about when is the next script coming through.
Right.
Am I still working? What is going on? And my heart was like I was having anxiety attacks.
Yeah.
I guess my question for you is, after cleaning out your dressing room and after having that, does it feel like closure? Do you feel like you're a little more relaxed now?
Um, it's it's it the difficult part was 3 years ago until I cleaned out my dressing room, because there was always the potential of maybe coming back, or them changing their approach to me, or and they tried. I mean, CBS tried, and Josh Griffith tried, but Sony didn't try at all, and that was my sign. So, you and I were in a different position because I was 63 when it started to disintegrate, and you are not. You've got a family. I mean, my kids had gone, um, uh, so I suffered the same anxiety. I had nightmares of being called on stage and not being able to find my script, and not knowing a line in my head. I mean, so a lot of those things bubbled up during the time between, what was it, 2000, I think it was 2018, and when I cleaned out my dressing room um, 2 months ago. So yeah, it's a mind bleep.
Well, I think, and this is my opinion, but I feel like it's the opinion of a lot of the fans that are out there, and a lot of also daytime veterans who have been in the industry for decades. I feel that the networks, by taking away these characters that have been inside of homes for so many years, or whether it's a production decision, is an absolute travesty and a mistake, because the audience is not getting any younger,
No,
and we're not adopting any new fans. So they need to go with the people that they know and that they've respected and watched, and that's the reason why they watched. So it's their loss, Doug. And I really, I've enjoyed watching you for so many years. You're truly like one of the nicest guys, and not to mention nicest guys, but talented, nice guys in the industry, and they're far and few.
right back at you. I mean, honestly, I don't do showbiz stuff, and the only reason I'm doing this is out of respect for you, your kindness, your devoted family guy. Uh, I honestly, it's right back at you.
Well, I appreciate that.
I'm going to tell you, I'm going to tell your people something, that there was a restaurant near CBS. This is something I've never forgotten. And it was Maggiano's, an Italian restaurant. And we'd go over sometimes for lunch, and I was sitting by myself, and I had a chicken Caesar or something like that, and iced tea. And I went to pay, and you apparently had taken care of the bill. And I just thought that was the most incredibly kind thing anybody, without any reason, had ever done. It touched my heart, and I think I tracked you down and called you after to thank you. But it was such an incredibly kind gesture.
Oh man, it was my pleasure. And look, I think we all, every once in a while, it's necessary to do things like that, just for no reason. It doesn't require a reason. It's just, it was
Really
my
great.
pleasure, and people have done that for me over the years. So I just like to pay it forward.
Yeah, it was really touching.
Well, thank you.
Very touching. How's your family?
Oh, family's good. My son's in high school now. He started high school this year, which is kind of crazy. all of those hormones and things are changing, and he's really kind of finding himself. The girls are great. My daughter, I'm going to brag on her for a second, which I haven't done. My oldest daughter, who's in the 4th grade, she's recently got in the gifted and talented program, and she's in the top of South Carolina, but she's also in the top 5 percentile in the United States. So
Oh, wow.
she's like a little savant. She's a super smart little girl, and couldn't be prouder than that. And
Teach
my
her how to do your taxes.
yeah, exactly.
Think of the money you'll save.
But I always think about that. I'm like, well, when I'm old, what is she going to be doing? And is she going to be the one taking care of me?
Yeah. Oh, that's fabulous.
Yeah.
Oh, great. So you're raising your family in South Carolina?
Yeah. Yeah. We're in Charleston.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hey, that's fabulous.
Yeah. We were in Utah for a while, but I sold the place out there during COVID. And my in laws are on the eastern board. They're a little further north, but we just wanted to change it up and do something different. And once I got down here, it was just nice. People are nice to each other.
Yeah.
They say sir and ma'am, and they always say hello. And if you don't say it first, they're gonna say hello to you before you get a chance to. It's just I like that kind of friendliness.
You could be buying salads down there like crazy.
Yes, I could.
No, that's true. How do you find working in Hollywood? Living, is it more difficult for you there?
No, actually, it's not because Zoom was always in place, right? It was before COVID, at least it was happening, but then COVID happened, and that we were already doing self tapes and auditioning, and when you weren't available, and then once that happened, of course, all the casting offices that they're no longer actual physical addresses, so you don't even meet with a casting director unless you get a call back now. So it was like, well, there's no reason even to be in Hollywood or even in New York. And a lot of my friends have followed suit. A good friend of mine just moved to Austin, Texas. I got a lot of friends that they moved all over the place. But the good thing about Charleston is I'm not far away from Atlanta. And Atlanta obviously is a big production mecca. Many of the shows that people see, a lot more than they realize, are shot in Atlanta. And the cool thing is about that is I would never get auditions for reoccurring characters. Very seldom. It was always for the lead of a show, which I was probably priced out of anyway by other bigger actors, and that was never going to probably happen just for namesake reason. And the one thing that I found is I'm actually going for those arcs, and the reason why that's happening is because the Atlanta stronghold down there is you're not going to have any supporting characters or any kind of season arcs being cast out of Los Angeles. They have their associate casting director down there in Atlanta. And so if you're local hire, you're going to get the job, which is exactly what happened when I did a couple episodes of The Walking Dead last year. And, I just happened to be local hire and got on that show. So it's I don't know. It has its pluses and minuses, but I feel like for me, I mean, you're in Santa Barbara, which is a beautiful place, but like in the Los Angeles basin, for me, I was never happy living there. I grew up on a big ranch in Washington, and I just like to have a little bit more space and a little bit more friendly nature around me. And I feel like LA, as you know, growing up in the industry there, can be a little jaded.
Well, we moved up here 30 years ago, and it was really so my kids didn't have to be raised in Los Angeles. But that also meant that I'm driving 87 miles to and 87 miles from the studio. So I have a PhD in freeway driving. I had between soccer, which my daughter did quite a bit, and working, I had 3 cars with over 250,000 miles on them.
Oh my gosh! Wow. Well, at least they were running.
Yes,
250,000 miles. That's a lot.
Yeah, it was crazy. It was really crazy.
So let me ask you, Douglas, just going back to the acting stuff. I mean, when did you get your acting bug, and how did it start?
When did I get my acting one?
Your bug, like how did you get the bug for acting? And
well, I think I was born that way, and the honest to God truth is I had a hat box, and it was the beginning of television, really, as we know it. Episodic shows like Whirly Bird and Sky King and sea hunt, combat, um, and I had a hat box, and I had hats from World War II and the Civil War and anything you can think of as the beginning of the space program, and I was fascinated by all those things. And of course, I wanted to be an astronaut. I wanted to go to war, but I didn't really want to go into space or be shot at. So,
I don't blame you.
So, when I was about to enter high school, my sister was a model with Anita Blanchard Agency. She suggested, why don't you take an acting class as your elective? I think electives at that time were like wood shop, metal shop, and and I would get a dustpan or a nut bowl. And I decided to go into the acting class. And my best friend at the time and I then jumped in both feet. And anytime there was a play, we'd try out, and I'd either get the second lead or he'd get the lead, or I'd get the lead and he'd get the second lead. And it just and I said, okay, this is how it's going to work. And I went when I finished high school. I went to Occidental College, and there was so much academia involved in that, and not as much. Well, let me say the acting aspect there. You had to wear a black turtleneck and be a little beatnik-like.
Yeah.
So I dropped out of school. I went to Cal State Northridge and took sailing, fencing, and speech and diction, and which were all fascinating and fun classes. And then I quit and jumped into it full time, taking acting classes at night, driving taxi, and then waiting tables. And it was, I'd say 5 or 6 years of struggling until I got little bit parts, and then finally landed a recurring role in The Young and the Restless. And then the show went to an hour. They signed me, and the rest is history. I was friends with Mark and Victoria Lambert. So when you talk about destiny, I was I was driving taxi, which I started at 5 o'clock at night, 5 o'clock in the morning, thinking that I would have time for interviews, which, you'd wake up at 2 and eat and go back to work again. So that didn't work out at all. But I was taking a Taekwondo class where I met Mark Lambert, Victoria Mallory's husband, and a guy that ran a local restaurant. And so I started working in the restaurant. I became friends with Mark, and as a favor, I gave him a ride down to the studio, and John Conboy came out, met me, and I think 2 weeks later contacted me to read for the role on The Young and the Restless. Just one name, Paul. I took my sister and my best friend Rick Springfield down because I was scared to death, and I thought I blew it. And got a call on a Sunday night saying I had to come in on Monday and for a wardrobe fitting and rehearsal, and that was the start of 40 plus years of acting on daytime.
Wow.
It's interesting now. The sun is moving into my. It's interesting. It's interesting now that this is the first time in my life when I haven't had to look like a character. I mean, not a character, but a character in a production. So that's the other thing that was kind of, who am I? What do I look like? How do I present myself? How are you going to spend the next, the rest of your life? How many years that that's going to be. So that was another thing that
was new to you.
Still working on.
Yeah. Well, I can totally relate to that because, for the first time in my life, I was able to grow my hair out and grow a beard. And like,
Right.
I was like, I couldn't have been happier. My wife's like, are you going to cut that thing? Like, hell no, I'm not going to cut that thing.
Yeah.
I haven't been able to do this.
Right.
But aside from, good looks and talent, which you have plenty of both, what personality traits helped you the most in having a successful career?
I think deep faith and sense of humor.
Yeah.
So, and not always in that order, because I won't say that I never panic, but somehow it's always worked out. You can say you're born under a lucky star, but really I think it comes from deep faith that that everything is going to be fine. I had a dream. I think I call it a dream, but it was around the turn of the century, around 2000 or something. And I was sleeping in my bed, and up until this point, I really hadn't been. I like to say tested in the hardest sense of the word. I grew up in a family where I had both parents supporting all three kids, loving family. They helped me in all the way through school and college, and if I needed financial assistance, they were there. And at this period in my life, Bill was stepping down. I think he retired in '97. And I had this dream where I was lifted off my bed, and I felt like I was levitating. And I'm going to try and remember it as best I can. And I was seeing this cave, and the rock blew off the cave, and all this smoke came out. And I thought, wow, well, if I'm going to be devoured by demons, I have no regrets. I've lived the best life I knew how under all the circumstances that I encountered, and suddenly the smoke stopped. There was a screen that appeared in front of me, and it had the face of a teddy bear, which, as you know, a teddy bear is comfort. And I heard this voice saying, everything is going to be fine. And it kept repeating, everything is going to be fine. And I was lowered onto my bed, and I woke up, and I had tears in my eyes. And it didn't seem like a dream to me. It seemed like a message. I don't know what you believe in, but this would come under the heading of the Holy Spirit or whatever external power exists. And I never forgot that. And from that, we had work issues. We went through executive producers. My mom got a brain tumor, passed away in 2005. So essentially everything that I hadn't experienced in the first half of my life was coming pretty quickly. Mm-hmm. But through it all, I remember that dream, and we had my mother here, and she lost her ability to speak, and she would mumble like she was making sense. like, and I'd smile and say yes. And then she'd grab my hand and she'd go, I love you.
Oh.
So those are the only 3 words she could say in the last few weeks of her life.
Oh.
And my dad lived for 9 years, 10 years after. He also lived here with us, which put enormous strain on my wife because she was raising kids and had to deal with that as well. But it all worked out.
Yeah.
And I guess that's the so anybody that tells me they don't believe in God, or I've seen it, so it's not something that I doubt. I mean, you can doubt how it's going to work out or what you have to go through, or but I think that you just need to. It's an old phrase, but keep the faith.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing your spiritual journey.
Sure.
Now,
I mean, it's what happened.
Let's say you're having a bad day.
What?
Let's say you're having a bad day. What do you do to reset yourself?
Just that. I have. I think quiet time is really important, and again, rekindling that. The all the phrases that you hear. It's always darkest before the dawn, and it has been there's so much out of your control. So the fact that that it requires focus and reminder that their power is bigger than you are, and weather through it. Golden rules, all the things that we used to be taught as kids. That people don't always consider important when you're raising children. But I think it is. Gratitude is incredibly important. Understanding the gifts you have, and so when you hit a bump in the road, you're not alone. And I think that's the biggest thing that and I have a wife that is from my perspective second to none. She's always been there for me, understanding the difficulties. She was an actress, so there are so many things that I've had even in the worst of times.
Yeah, that was one thing I was going to ask. You had a long, happy marriage, 2 kids. What lessons did you and your wife want to instill in your children?
Oh, I guess again, it comes to following your dreams, and it seems unpractical sometimes. But my kids live in faraway places now, and it's been incredibly hard on my wife because of COVID. We haven't seen my daughter in 2 years, and I don't think I've seen my son in 6. He's living in New Delhi now.
Oh, wow.
And my daughter lives in London. She is married and has a composer husband, and she's a violinist. So, I mean, she's working her tail off. And then we thought about in discussion about her path. And she started the violin at like 3.5 with a teacher who just instilled the joy of music. She had a penny whistle class. She did not teach a lot of the fundamentals and basic form that you might want to be exposed to at that age. So she had to switch teachers. She had horrible teachers for destructive teachers and coaches. because they were always out for themselves and not for the kids. Um, and this was a hard time for her. She went on to homeschool and finished her high school degree at City College while commuting to LA to the Colburn Center, where she had a teacher there by the name of Dr. Yoon, which helped her immensely. He had a camp up here. She met Beaver Gitless, who was a world-renowned violinist. They hit it off. He introduced her to a man that taught at the Music Academy, and she did that for 2 years. She went to we went to Europe and went into the Royal College of Music, where she interviewed and played a piece for the head of school there. Asked her to come back in November. She got in. So, I mean, these are all things that are on first glance impossible. So it's really working through it and staying positive and knowing that it's going to work out one way or the other, whatever it may be. It may not be your first choice, but something will work out. Somebody you meet. I mean, I look at the three things that got me on The Young and the Restless for 40 years. I mean, it's beyond my control.
Yeah.
So you've got to just give in to the fact that it is beyond your control, and you need to, and it's not, you need to be ready when you get there.
Yeah.
But you can't know what's around the corner.
Yeah. That's great
and
advice.
Sometimes it's not easy to understand that you can't see around the corner.
Right. Yeah. I've always had that feeling of it's going to work itself out one way or the other. It's going to work itself out. It always hasn't failed yet. You know, you can get down in the dumps, but there's always something, like you said, around the corner.
Yeah. Well, I mean, who would have imagined, 15 years ago that you were going to live in South Carolina and still be in the entertainment business? I mean, that just wasn't a possibility.
Yeah.
It wasn't even.
Yeah,
you could have had a vacation home, but unless you were a star by then, it wasn't going to happen.
Yeah, it's so true.
Yeah.
Doug, all my guests, they take a ride in the Jacob Young time machine. If you could go back to when you were a kid or a teenager, what advice would you give yourself?
Well, here again, I don't think I'd have to give myself advice, because somewhere along the line, I had a mentor or a camp director or a parent that was able to, a teacher, able to hold my hand and address the pitfalls that you have when you grow up. And I was lucky enough to have those adult role models in my life. Family, of course, but then camp counselors or directors or someone always came up and held my hand and got me through it. So I guess, again, the advice that I would give my older self is the same thing, that believe. My daughter and I have this thing with Peter Pan. It's faith, trust, and pixie dust. And those three things, the pixie dust is, of course, the intangible that you can't always measure. But you need a little pixie dust along the way, as well as faith and trust.
Now, this is my last question for you, and everybody also on the podcast always, gets this question, and you've been so open. So I don't want to feel like I'm repeating myself, but my sponsor, Boys Town, their motto is "He ain't heavy, he's my brother," and it goes back to the beginning when Father Flanagan was alive, and there was young boys that were around that they couldn't get all the medical equipment for, and one kid, he didn't have crutches, so the boys would take turns carrying him to class, or carrying him to football games, or carrying him to assemblies, Christmas time. And one day, Father just looked down to him and he said, "Isn't he heavy?" And he said, "He's not heavy, Father. He's my brother." Meaning, in our lives, we've had people carry us. Who's carried you, Doug?
Oh, well, first of all, Father Flanagan's still alive, because I see him live in you and in Boys Town. So my parents carried me. My wife has carried me. Mr. Bell, Lee Bell, have carried me. My sisters, on occasion. I've had enormous support. Uh, Wes Kenny, in professionally, uh, what a jewel of a man. I've had people carry me the whole time. You don't get through this alone. I've had support from castmates. I'm handheld here because the sun is moving in. But from Eric Braden, Melody Thomas, Jeannie Cooper, it just doesn't end. And it always happens in time. And Rick Springfield, who's been, and another friend of mine, Mark James, two guys that have always been incredibly supportive and helpful. So, and I'm not the easiest guy to get along with. I mean, I'm moody and all that stuff. Sometimes I didn't return calls, or, I don't know. But they've always been there. And I've tried to do that. Now that I have more time, it's easier to return the favor, to answer the email, or I'm spending a lot of time volunteering with my church, trying to excite a youth group coming from most of the congregation is 70 plus, so I'm one of the youngsters.
Yeah.
And some fabulous people there too. So yeah, I'd have to say there's never been a shortage of people. And I think I've never had, I've always sent love out. So, but I first understood what it was to receive it. And it's much easier to send it out when it's coming in.
Yeah. It takes an army.
Yeah. Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, you can call it the spirit, but, for somebody like Father Flanagan when did he pass away? How old is the story?
It was in mid-40s, right after the war.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's pretty impressive.
Yeah. His work was impressive. It's
yeah.
Incredible. I'll have to share some stories with you. I've learned a lot about him and visited the campus many times, and the work that's being done there is exactly the work that he would have wanted, and it continues. So it's pretty incredible.
Yeah, no, really incredible.
Well, Doug, I want to just say thank you so much for spending time with us today. And it meant so much to me. And I know it's going to mean so much to the fans. I really appreciate you opening up about your journey and all the great advice, life lessons and everything that we talked about today. And of course, wishing you and your family continued success.
Same here.
Yeah. But I already know that you'll be great in whatever you're planning to do next.
Yeah, thanks. Could be sailing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Jimmy Buffett has left a hole.
Yeah, it's wide open now.
Somebody's got to take the helm.
Awesome. Well, just hold tight for me 1 second.
Okay.
That's about all the time we have for this week, but the Boys Town toll-free national hotline, 1-800-448-3000, is a 24/7 crisis resource and referral number for kids and their parents. And they're always there to help anyone having suicidal thoughts, risking any type of self-harm, parenting problems, physical, sexual, or emotional abuse, stress, anxiety, anger problems, school problems like bullying and peer pressure, and of course, chemical dependency. If you are suffering with any of these issues or you just need someone to talk to, they're there for you 24/7. So call the Boys Town National Hotline at 800-448-3000. Hey, you don't feel like talking? You can text voice to 20121. Someone will get back to you immediately. Boys Town, saving children, healing families. Till next time, love each other and love yourself.